cultivating, making 10 million. Probably not going to happen on this playthrough. That's not rumbling too badly. I think I'm well back from the desk these days. I have noticed there's a number of farm simmers that do carry the noise through the stream or YouTube videos of the steering wheel. I honestly don't know on that account. They have seriously annoyed a lot of the fans, and I think to some extent Disney have forgotten that just because you buy a franchise that has a big name to it and a large following doesn't mean that that large following won't leave you if you completely balls it up. And obviously, as far as the trilogy or the original, heroes are concerned, there is Episode 9 is the end of that particular story. But I'm not sure how confident they are, looking at some of the results of movies, things like the Han Solo story. I know Disney are looking at TV series because they're starting their Disney streaming service. Have started or are about to start, I'm not sure. I know it's supposedly planned for some time in the very near future if it hasn't already started. And so they need to fill that streaming service with content. And one of the things they are looking at is Star Wars based TV shows, possibly Marvel based TV shows, who knows. So they also now have a part ownership in Hulu because they bought Fox, and so they may do some completely unrelated to existing franchises, shows that are exclusive to Hulu. I know one of those is going to be The Orville. It is no longer going to be on broadcast TV, it's going to be a Hulu exclusive, which gives Seth MacFarlane a little bit more leeway in what he can get away with, and also a longer story. A stream episode is closer to 45-50 minutes long, with limited commercial breaks, whereas broadcast TV is down to around 40 minutes with lots of commercial breaks. And so writers are finding it increasingly difficult to get, to tell the story they want because of the limited broadcast time they have in an hour of broadcast content. So you have to go to Hulu to watch. Hang on. I'm not sure. DLS. And someone's thing just popped up there. There we go. Oh, Disney. No. Disney.com is Disney.com. So Disney's exclusive streaming service, you will have to go to Disney.com. It's their shows are not going to be available on Hulu. But they've bought Fox, which means they now have a broadcast channel, a standard over the air broadcast channel, which they have to do content for, which will appear on Hulu. And if you do have a Hulu subscription, there is now a Hulu bundle that will include Disney. So there's going to be a number of Star Wars shows that will appear exclusively on Disney.com. But there are going to be some Disney shows that are more adult, directed, less family friendly, that don't fit well with the Disney.com and will be on Hulu instead. So, for example, the Orville, they don't consider that to be entirely family-friendly content, so it's not going to appear on Disney at all. So yes, WALL-E would be on the Disney streaming service. Anything out of Pixar would be on the Disney service, since Disney owned Pixar. All of the Disney movies, so Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Sleeping Beauty and all that sort of thing, that's all going to be on the Disney Channel or on the Disney streaming service. This is getting a little tricky. But anything that they, in certain situations, things that they do not deem to be family, classic family entertainment would be, they may still produce it, and they will produce it for Hulu since they are part owners in Hulu now. Because of their desire to own the world when it comes to broadcasting media. And, well, do remember some of their older movies are not deemed politically correct anymore. It's like I was looking at stuff that the BBC produced, and there are some shows back in the 70s you will never see, ever. They are in the BBC archives and they will remain there. Because in today's day and age they would be considered too racy, too racist, too sexist. Don't drive on that field unless you turn it off. Okay. Okay. Well, 9 o'clock at night game time, and it's dark as anything. Yeah, and a lot of those BBC shows, there are no copies of, because they were never released to video. I mean, a lot of the old movies for Disney were released limited. Okay, I think for the most part that's looking reasonably done, so let's find forward gear and work our way back to the farm. Yeah, we'll just have to see. I mean, I think basically Disney is doing what CBS are doing with their streaming service, which is basically, this is all our exclusive content. So if you want to, and it's one of the reasons why services like Netflix have become less value for money. It's because, CBS and Disney have pulled all of their movies and shows from general availability on for services like Netflix and basically said, no, we want them on our service, so you can't have them anymore. We are home. Still have one box of eggs. We'll jump out and try and find. There it is. Okay, you take care, Captain Zank. The Ryan show is on, what is it, Amazon. So if you don't have Amazon Prime, no, you couldn't watch it. I mean, we used to have the three main streaming service, which is Amazon Prime, not specifically because we wanted Amazon Prime for streaming, but we wanted Amazon Prime for shipping reasons. And so the streaming service was a benefit. But they do have some interesting exclusives. We got Hulu. I can't remember what the justification behind getting Hulu was, but we figured Hulu was a good option. We gave up cable TV, so not cable TV, satellite TV, so we took on Hulu instead. And that was basically at the time on the premise that, well, if we... there we go. If we don't have TV, then at least we can watch the TV shows that we used to watch a day later by watching them on Hulu. And I had Netflix from the time I was living in a hotel for 6 months away from home, and so I was actually using it as was it, for the DVDs at the time, and just watching loads of old movies and TV series that happened to be available on DVD. And then they introduced the streaming service, and there really wasn't a lot on the streaming service at the time. And then that got better, and then they split it all up. Isn't this working? There we go. Of course I don't recall what the time was. So it is 9 o'clock, so we want to sleep for 10 hours. That'll work. Yeah, we got rid of cable about 2013, I think. Okay, so new day. Chickens are still producing eggs and not making a mess. What's the deal, chickens? Cleanliness 100%. I don't have any mod that, animal cleanliness mod or anything like that. So I really don't know what the deal is. Oh, we're about to produce more chickens. Yay! But as these other more niche streaming services have come online, like CBS, like Disney, they have pulled availability of their shows from places like Netflix. So Netflix is suffering, and this year we just decided, you know what, Netflix just isn't the value for money that it used to be. And so okay, so that's still classed as planted. These two are now good and growing, and we have no failure to germinate on either of these, so obviously the temperature didn't drop too low. This one is still in a planted state. I'm guessing if I go out and look at those fields, let's walk over there and take a look. I will slow time down to ×1 since we're closing up, so so this field here is growing. This field here is growing. And nothing special in either. Actually, that was... I don't know. Thought I saw some yellow needs ploughed or something, but I missed that. Yes, I think they are. I think... Netflix has kind of done a Blockbuster to themselves. Blockbuster was sort of, nobody's ever going to want to stop renting videos. And they changed their model to, okay, pay us a membership instead of paying us for a video for a night. And they completely got wiped out by Netflix. In much the same way as Amazon wiped out an awful lot of booksellers. Was because Amazon could do selling books better than a bricks and mortar store, and Netflix could deliver video content better than Blockbuster could. And so the problem is Netflix didn't stay ahead. They were just a streaming service, and they didn't produce content for far too many years. And I think when they realized we need our own content in order to supply, at least have something on our streaming service, they got into it too late, too small, and they just aren't the value for money that they used to be. And whereas I could go and maybe not watch the... Okay, Star Trek. I could watch Star Trek on Netflix. Because Star Trek wasn't on the TV at the moment. The problem is Star Trek is a CBS show, so CBS said, yeah, that's our property, and we now have our own streaming service, so you can't have Star Trek anymore. Yeah, exactly. Netflix doesn't own their own movies. They don't own their TV shows. They don't own the vast majority of TV shows. They were handy as a streaming service, but as more, as the producers of content have created their own streaming services, they want their content on their streaming services in order to make their streaming services better value for money. And that's the problem Netflix has, and that's why we drop Netflix and so many other people are dropping Netflix, because they're not as good value for money as they used to be. I'm guessing they probably will be. They will be eclipsed by the other streaming services. I mean, for example, as far as TV is concerned, because Hulu was set up by the major TV stations except for CBS, Hulu now obviously wants to stream all of the current TV shows that are on ABC, CBS, or ABC, NBC, Fox, etc. And they're producing exclusive content. And they now have Disney that is capable of producing exclusive content for Hulu too. Hulu's not going to do any... Disney's not going to do any extra new deals with Netflix because they don't have to. CBS is not going to do deals with Netflix because they don't have to. They have their own streaming services. Now, anything that Disney doesn't own may still do deals with Netflix because they don't, they're not big enough to have their own streaming service. So, small indie movies probably still going to appear on Netflix because the indie producers don't have their own streaming service. They don't have a big enough wad of cash to create one. But Netflix isn't the only player on the block. They can go and play with Amazon if they want and put their movies out on Amazon Prime, or they can put their movies out on Hulu. Hulu will broadcast stream movies. And as less people are dealing with Netflix is either going to have to reduce their subscription rates because they're not the value for money that they used to be, or they're just going to shut down because nobody's going to want to be a member because they don't have the content they want or sufficient content that they want. So anyway, I need to get off tonight. So what we have is 2 planted fields. We have no failure to germination. This one we're going to have to wait, I'm guessing, until tomorrow before we find out if the seed took. But it should be okay because ground temperatures were fine and we didn't lose any crops here. Don't have to worry about that. We have nothing to sell. We have stuff. We have money. We need to make some. So we are going to have to look at some contracts tomorrow. Or next time we play, next week. Real terms, next week we are going to have to look at some contracts. Looks like there's ploughing and cultivating still to do. Some sowing. They're paying quite well. But for the most part, we will be taking borrowed items to do it, because some of the fields on this map are quite big, and my little equipment can't do it. Yes, germination is now a thing. So if you plant stuff and the ground is too cold, or if you plant stuff while the ground is warm enough but overnight the temperature drops, some of that seed can die. Now, the thing is, it's that tab there. Different seeds are different resistance. So this is frost resistance, and these seeds for canola and the 3 main cereals have a medium resistance, as does oilseed radish, to frost. Cotton has no resistance, so if you plant cotton when the temperature is just above what cotton needs, which is 18 degrees Celsius, whatever that is in Fahrenheit, but if the temperature is 18 degrees Celsius and then overnight it drops to below that, potentially you could lose your cotton. But these ones with medium, we can have failure to germinate, but it's not significant failure to germinate. There's small patches. Once they start growing, if the temperature drops, then they have a very high resistance. So what you can get away with is planting a winter crop, wheat, barley, oats or canola, and so long as it's germinated and started growing, if it snows, it'll survive through to spring. It won't grow anymore, but it will survive through to spring because it has a high resistance to frost. Now, if you don't get those things harvested before it snows, then you kind of lost them. The other one you have to worry about is drought resistance. Drought is soil water content below 12%. And if that happens and we have no control over irrigation, as I was saying earlier, you're kind of going to lose some of your crop, and there's nothing you can do about it. But again, it's a tiny little patch in a big field, or a couple of tiny little patches, so it's not catastrophe. But to make up for it, we get 3 stages of fertilization instead of just the 2 that the base game gives us. Cotton is definitely a summer crop, I think. So let's go back to there. I can't even plant cotton on this map because temperatures don't get warm enough. I can't plant sugarcane on this map because temperatures don't get warm enough early enough. But we can get away with soybeans so long as the temperature's 10 degrees or higher. And soybeans have no resistance to frost. So yeah, actually we are able to plant soybeans whenever we want, it's just that the temperature's too low. And again, if we go back to here, soybeans doesn't have much of a resistance to frost, so potential of frost damage increases as air temperatures fall below 0 degrees. Now, I think the thing is seeds are buried, so that's going to be more based, I think, on ground temperature than air temperature. These obviously air temperature. That's that. So that's the rotation planner. So we can see what state all our crops. Yeah, we'll get bonuses if we start with canola, then plant wheat, then plant sunflowers, then plant wheat, then plant canola. These all get benefits because they're above the base of 1. If you try and plant the same crop twice, you get a 95% yield for subsequent years. If you go fallow, it will make the next crop a 20% bonus. And if I set that to none, it's basically saying plant sunflowers, plant oats, plant sunflowers, plant oats. what was the other thing I didn't check here was we did get a bonus to fertilise on that one. Oh, what's going on there? Oh, we have weeds. So I said they would be back. But as you can see, it's a small patch. Do I really want to go out there and pull up the weeds? Because only those two tiny little strips, let's go out there and take a look at that. Only those two tiny little strips are going to suffer minus 15% yield if I don't deal with them. Oh, it's this area that needs planting and loud and stuff and lime. So yeah, here's the weeds. Oh, they're fully grown, so I'm going to need a sprayer. But yeah, I'm going to suffer a 15% loss in that area there, and the rest of the field is going to be 100%. So do I really need to spend a ton of money buying some herbicide so I can spray those two weeds? Maybe some weeds on this field. Yeah, there's a couple more here. Really, that small patch there is going to be minus 15%, the rest of the field's going to be 100%. Now obviously, base game, the entire field grows weeds. Yeah, it's worth killing them all off. But that is about as bad as right over here. I miss planting some stuff. I think I miss cultivating, so I miss planting. It's not a big deal. When you look at the rest of the field, yeah, that little bit there is not a big deal. When you look at the rest of the field, that weed there is not a big deal. Those aren't in the field, so they're okay. So yeah, so that's my take on bad stuff that happens. If we'd had failure to germinate here, again, it would have been a small patch like we have on those weeds. Yeah, it's a tiny, tiny little bit of land that we're not getting any growth on. It's not a big thing. Anyway, I need to go, so I'm going to say good night. Yeah, you're right. As long as no more weeds grow, we're good. Obviously, and I've seen it in on Old Stream Farm, you've got sort of a patch of weeds every couple of yards. Sort of, yeah, okay, I would possibly consider getting a sprayer and some herbicide to deal with them, but the amount we have right now, it's not worth worrying about. So yeah, good night. I don't know if I'll be back tomorrow streaming. It kind of depends on the weather and how I feel, but anyway, have a good night and have a good day tomorrow. For now, I'm out of here.